My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity, theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state.
That's a demon. The entity literally turning on and off the sound of the helicopter clapping. It's demonic. And it's coexisting with what happens when they drive by. I'm being touched with impulsive light. This is the demon that's engaged in psychopathic pacing by helicopter while I'm uploading the video right now, while I'm using this recorder and capturing this evidence, which I'm going to put demons in prison with. They're trying to affect the internet and stop my ability to upload it, slow it down. They're engaged in literal monitoring on the internet, surveillance on the internet. While you are aware of what demons are doing, which is monitoring, light activity, relevant positioning, audible activity, the demons are actually seeking to affect, and they're doing so using the resources of a police department who are obviously conceding to surveillance while they are conspiring the murder in front of the world, while they are worried about one video that's going on the internet speaking to an entire pattern of conduct. They are engaging in this while it is uploading online, and they're doing so exhibiting severe mental instability. That's a demon stalking using an entire helicopter, which only a mentally ill person that's a part of a mentally ill department engages in. It's P.O.C. It's 12:06 a.m. This is the third video showing what was stalking the first time they flew over my head, engaging in amplifying helicopter activity, engaging in a pattern of stalking me and harassing me. And as I capture that video, they engage in it flying over my head, doing so, which is psychopathic pacing repeatedly while I'm in use of the internet, uploading it online. Remember, this is what they're doing when Sergeant Hall, 80491, is stating that I'm the least concerned, right? I'm the least interesting person, but you're stalking me 24 hours a day. That was a lying demon. She was lying out of her face. She's obsessed with my vagina. So are all of the demons of the Ontario Police Department. They're gargoyles who sling light. They consume feces as well. They lie about that as well. Okay, Hall and S. Casas and R. Lilly, all those demons that denied, refused to provide their badge numbers while they're engaged in this federal group stalking and monitoring. Oh no, it is not true that you don't have to give me your badge number. You also don't have the right to engage in what is stalking me. Because that's what they're doing under Title 18 federal stalking, which they were also triggered by because I referred to it and they don't even know what it is. They're engaging in the pattern of conduct, and that's what's stalking in a helicopter, and they're doing so with their demon-possessed co-defendants, the people of the state. Pacing all around in engineer light, and they're doing so while they're monitoring on the ARCO website, the Wi-Fi. I'm going to prosecute them. And they're going to federal prison. So is Sergeant Hall. She's going to prison. She's a demon stalking me under the fake moon that was over the OVITT Family Community Library. And it's over me now while that same department is stalking. This is P.O.C. It is currently 12:08 a.m. Just want to be clear, these are gang members stalking a woman together. These are demons. See him looking at the side of his hoodie. They're stalking me, doing so while I'm sleeping at the bus bench. And they're engaging in stalking a woman together. This is what the Ontario police are into as well. This is gang stalking. And these are not men. These are demon-possessed people. In case you do not know, demon-possessed males are effeminate. They're cowardly. They're definitely corrupt. But they engage in things such as stalking women, attacking women, stealing from women, even engage in trying to be women. This is the pattern of conduct. They're in engineer light, an operational device, literally ganging up in relevant position in the engineer light. And if you pay attention to the video, you'll see the engineer light moving along the wall while demon-possessed third parties are stalking in the path while these demons are doing so on the roads and the highways. This is pacing. The entity stalking by helicopter, the Ontario police, you're remembering what the entity is doing, and they're doing so by conspicuously stalking the path. These are demons, and they're mentally deranged. This is group conduct. So I just want to be clear. And this is doing so. Stalking at a bus stop is absolutely certifiable conduct. Stalking and as a group is certifiable. Stalking with light. Stalking somebody by following them around as an entity that takes shifts. Monitoring. You're literally stalking in engineer light with regard to every move that someone is making. These are the mentally ill. Okay? And these are demons that are monitoring me again while I'm sleeping. And so these are demons that are obsessed while you're in an unconscious state. That's also the conduct of rapists. Okay? This is P.O.C. This is where the airport is stalking in the Ontario Police Department, like I've already captured, which is the case right now. This is literally going to be played in the courtroom. The Ontario International Airport gang stalking, Southwest Airlines gang stalking, doing so with the people of the state. It's audible activity, relevant positioning, and doing so in the engineer light. They are monitoring.
This is the environment where they are studying their devices, engaging in what is the P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaging in the pattern of conduct of monitoring. If you can see the multiple shadows here, they're all stalking. So for the airport to be engaging in flying over its psychopathic pacing, crossing path multiple times over and over and over again, doing so in that engineer light. And they're doing so where the fake sun is present, they're stalking. They're doing so where the fake moon is over me, they're stalking. And you have a gang of demons that are wanting to be as well. Omnitrans is gang stalking. It's not waiting for the bus. Omnitrans is engaged in the pattern of conduct. Okay, this is the entity that's stalking in grocery stores, stalking in the library. You see that engineer light on the side of the road? Over there, background? That's not their headlights. These are demons. This is a population that's going to be dealt with martial law, that are going to federal prison for conspiring murder of killing women that they're gang stalking. This is the entity that does so and then relies on the gang stalkers of, like, the Ontario police who are being disbanded to investigate when they are in fact engaged in such harm together. Okay, that's P.O.C. The entities engaged in that pattern of conduct while psychopaths are engaged in what is sexual assault and battery together. These are not men. These are sex offenders. Okay, these are terrorists. And these are a threat to women and any vulnerable society, any of the vulnerable population in society. Gang stalkers are not merely males. Gang stalkers are females. Look at Tracy Banks. Okay, that's the pattern of conduct. This is the entity psychopathic pacing. All right, you airport varying in elevation while they're maintaining surveillance, stalking in the sky space using commercial planes. Get back up to that. Hold on. This is the entity that's flying over in case you didn't see that. But this is the same airport, and the entities maintaining what is conspicuous stalking, hovering, and then all flying over at a heightened elevation. This is aerial surveillance while the population is surrounding around. So the entities engaging with a stalking with a possible light not caused by their headlights. 6SIV 530 or 350 P.O.C. These are demons altogether that are engaging in what is ganging up on one person, stalking them. Okay, it's mentally ill behavior, psychopathic to be specific. Alrighty, that's P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, while you have the entity providing what is the evidence regarding federal prison for the people of the state that are conspiring murder, gang stalking with the state of California, doing so in the psychopathic manner, studying their devices in the engineer light, pacing all around you, molesting you, and doing so under the guise of the false sense of anonymity as strangers. They're not strangers in the engineer light. They're not strangers under a fake sun. They're not strangers under the fake moon. They're not strangers where the government is stalking, like the Ontario International Airport, the Ontario Police, the Ontario Fire, etc. This is P.O.C. All right, it is terrorism while males are stalking you and surrounding you in the specific environment, doing so while they're engaged in that P.O.C. All right, these are vagina monitors. They are indeed sex offenders. All right, it is currently 6:44 a.m. I believe this is the drug addict from Aegis Treatment Center. Documented him before. Engaged in the pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. This is P.O.C. And just want to be clear, the entity maintaining psychopathic pacing. One plane after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. Demon-possessed gang stalker in close proximity. This is conspicuous stalking with the government doing so in the engineered environment. When you study the video that I captured of these two terrorists stalking out a bus stop, mentally ill behavior, you'll see the engineer light traveling on the wall. You'll see the shadows that are moving across the wall while you're in use of your device in that environment, gang stalking together on the roads and the highways and in the sky space. This is, first of all, demonic. It is terrorizing on its face, and it's also terrorism in substance. And you literally have males who are stalking, gang stalking, in furtherance of murder, a woman together. This is the epitome of what is cowardly conduct, bullying conduct, violent conduct against a woman, which demons commit. Okay, I just want to be clear: the entities engaged in this while the Ontario International Airport's been maintaining the level of instability that is manifest in the behavior. It increases as you document the mentally ill that are demon possessed. So that's what's behind the Ontario International Airport that have been engaged in what is repeated playing while this demon is sitting engaged in what is microaggressive conduct threatening my life and safety, not saying a word. The pattern of conduct is what is communicating that threat. And this is a pre-documented stalker at the same venue. And Omnitrans is a facilitating venue, okay? So Omnitrans is gang stalking. Getting on the bus is facilitation, where Omnitrans is fully engaged in the pattern of conduct. Omnitrans is targeting. And they're doing so where the entity is maintaining ongoing stalking by commercial planes that are merely engaging in what is flight after flight after flight, hovering and doing the cartwheels, which is what I'm capturing right here. And this is where a demon is threatening you, stalking you, and doing so while the government's maintaining an ongoing psychopathic flight over here. And there aren't even any planes that are taking off from Terminal 2 or Terminal 4 that are going to be anywhere in the sky space, let alone at this frequency. This is the pattern of conduct, though. This is what you're going to prosecute psychopaths with while they engage in it now. And it's going to be played in court tomorrow, for example, and they're going to prison and they're going into mental asylums. This is P.O.C. This is relevant to, again, the pattern of conduct that the people of the state in general are engaging in. That's why it's establishing what is the policy for federal prison. They're molesting, they're engaging in the pacing, they come in close proximity, stalking in the path. They do the same thing going into the bathroom while they're pacing all around outside and they're monitoring your vagina. Doing so in the engineer light. Doing so where there's no airport where they would be flying over that building. That's the sex offenders that are stalking outside at a bus stop. This is P.O.C. The Ontario Police Department, gang violence. The Ontario International Airport, gang violence. The people of the state, gang violence. The engineer light, where they're monitoring. This is gang violence. It's P.O.C. Where the entity's engaging in a cartwheel, flying over the storefront, 7:14 a.m., 537 North Euclid Avenue, P.O.C. It is Tuesday, January 6, 2026. This is documentation regarding the pattern of conduct as you are listening to the videos. The videos are capturing the entity which makes up the people of the state who are the government. They're in the shoes of the government. These are not private citizens engaging in any lawful conduct. They're all engaged in the pattern of conduct, which is the criminal activity of the United States government that is engaged in criminal surveillance, and it is committed in furtherance of murder. This is referred to as gang stalking, and it's also a domestic terrorism based on the fact that it is demonic activity that is mentally deranged, mentally ill, mentally disturbing conduct. It is disturbing for the entity to practice it. It is disturbing for any American citizen to be subject to it. And this is domestic terrorism as it is underway. And the videos that you're capturing are documentation of that. And I want to make sure that I speak to the license plates regarding the gang members that are engaged in federal stalking. They are stalking on the roads and the highways. They are stalking in the sky space. They are stalking at facilitating venues where I am located. So relevant positioning is centered on my location at 537 North Euclid Avenue. That's where the engineer light is present. That's where the fake sun, as I am capturing it on this street. And as a matter of evidence, is already established. So it's already established that the entity is gang stalking me under the fake sun and the fake moon, even at nightfall when the fake sun is not out. The evidence shows from sunrise until sunset, the fake sun is already captured here. And when you're in any city, understand the pattern of conduct, and any pattern of conduct is speaking to that which is informing all of that body of evidence. So you're already surrounded with the evidence of a fake sun, meaning you're not doing anything other than gang stalking, as the pattern of conduct is already established. And that includes my location at 537 North Euclid Avenue, the bus stop where the fake sun is present over me, 6 and 7 in the morning, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock in the evening, where under no circumstances in any natural environment can that be the case, but I have the tangible evidence proving that. And that is how you are also prosecuting a government that is practicing mentally ill, deranged conduct as an entity that wants to be confused with and mistaken for and given the authority that it does not have, such as the demon-possessed gang stalkers of the Ontario Police, who are stalking me at the bus stop through the gang members that are engaging in surveillance at that bus stop where I'm located in the specific environment. The Ontario International Airport, clearly targeting. You don't even have any flights that are going to be flying over the sky space at this frequency, at that elevation, at that noise level, in that direction, coming from the terminals, and you're engaging in a takeoff. None of it is reconciled with what I'm documenting. It's all clear evidence of targeting, and it is also occurring in that specific environment where you can see literally in the evidence that I'm capturing the engineer light. In the engineer light, which is speaking to an illusion regarding normalcy, regarding privacy, regarding what is the absence of anything suspicious
even to that level. The entities engaging in the pattern of conduct in the illusion that everybody is aware of. So when you're looking at the illusion, in other words, they want you to see on the surface, I'm just sitting at the bus stop, just like the target individual. But I want to be clear, when the target individual is at the bus stop, it becomes a basis for an arrest and battery based on the gang members of the police department, and the people of the state engage in that same conduct, and they're engaging in what is criminal surveillance with those same gang members that are in those police vehicles, stalking in those helicopters, doing so under things like the fake moon and the fake sun, and doing so in furtherance of the criminal objective of murder. I just want to be clear, it is under all circumstances at all times the same P.O.C. So this is what is prefacing the license plates of the entity that is gang stalking. The demon-possessed include the Ontario police who are in vehicles, stalking in the path, sharing in the psychopathic behavior of pacing, doing so in the engineered environment. The entity is doing so using both smaller government planes and commercial airline planes, and it is the pattern of conduct shared by all commercial airlines that are engaging in criminal surveillance in the United States and in California and in Ontario, California, doing so with the facilitating venue of the Ontario International Airport, which is already going to be subject to a prosecution based on, for example, the irreconcilable presence of the airport hovering over my vehicle when I'm driving north on Euclid Avenue at G Street in Euclid, and the entity has the fake sun over my head, and the airport's located at 2500 Airport Road, where a takeoff from Terminal 2 or Terminal 4, both of them, will never reconcile what would be hovering over my vehicle over that street combined with the specific environment. It is the clear-cut and lack of any controversy regarding targeting, and it's a prosecution of an airport that's relevant to the prosecution of that city, which is proving what is prosecution for a state that is sharing a pattern of conduct. There is no sun that's ever going to be in San Francisco, California, when there's only one sun in the natural environment, and the entity that has provided an illusion that I captured on video in order to prosecute them as mentally ill co-conspirators of murder have kept it from sunrise until sunset over me, including at the bus stop, where a population of those of the male gender that want to be mistaken for men are stalking a woman together, and doing so while they're engaging in surveillance in violation of Title 18, federal stalking, utilizing communication devices, and they're doing so with the entity that provides evidence against each other while they are engaging in an unintelligent and disorganized system of federal group stalking and monitoring. It is the prosecution of the intellectually impotent, who are nothing other than monitoring spirits, and they don't have any brain power. So you're actually capturing what are fools who are engaging in serial killings. They're engaging in rapings. They're engaging in what is criminal conduct, which takes no brain power. You have any sort of ignoramus engage in what is gang stalking. And this is how you have the people of the state surrounded with this level of evidence, and doing so in the face of that evidence. That's relevant to what is impunity. You're going to federal prison. You're not just stalking at a bus stop. You're engaging in surveillance with kidnappers and murderers who are pacing all around me and relying on a stalker to sit right next to me, engage in what is a threat in doing so, while the government is stalking you with planes and helicopters, while the government is stalking you with the population that are molesting you with engineered light, monitoring you, while they are all together lusting after your death, lusting after money and property that belongs to you, and doing so while they sit up and watch your evidence that you put on the internet, monitoring you in real time while you capture it on your devices. That's federal prison. Those are terrorists that target American citizens, and that's what the white male and the Middle Eastern male represent, gang stalking me at the Ontario intersection of F Street and Euclid Avenue. Doing so as I'm capturing from 6 o'clock, and it's currently 8. Let me get the time right now. You can hear the entity stalking by the airport at 8:12 a.m. It's 8:14 a.m. The entity is engaged in what is prolonged surveillance as in doing so, this is a serial stalker. I captured this white male in particular, gang stalking, associated with the Drug Treatment Center, AGES, a documented gang stalker, unfit to have any sort of role in any level of the medical field, by the way, while they are distributing drugs to, and they're doing so as gang members who are mentally ill and corrupt, and they're also distributing drugs to those who are purportedly seeking to get off of what is drug addiction, while they are providing drugs which are addictive themselves, and they're all together engaging in the corrupt system of federal group stalking and monitoring. Just want to point that out, and this is an entity that is stalking at that bus stop, where the Ontario International Airport is stalking, where the Ontario police are stalking by helicopter, like you can see on all over my website, and like what is happening last night, what's happening this morning, and what is not separate or in a vacuum. This is where an entity is engaged in prolonged surveillance in your face. The entity that's engaged in this level of terrorism are going to prison. The entity that's stalking with the pilots, that are stalking with these demons that are sitting right next to you, they're in your face, engaging in that level of conduct. They're doing so in furtherance of murdering you, not saying a word to you. You're going to prison. They're delusional. This is an entity that does that, and by the way, they have drug issues. They're drug addicts. And they're engaging in that conduct with the Gang Stalker Aegis Treatment Center, who is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring with the government, while also having what is an improper role with regard to having anything to do with the medical field, while they're engaging in criminal activity in furtherance of murder, and also wanting to double as having a role that they can be trusted in distributing drugs to gang stalkers, who then come and engage in that criminal activity while they're high off of the opioids that Aegis is distributing to them under a fake Senate and insurance. These are mentally ill psychopaths. And they're engaged in criminal conduct with a police that's not a police department. They're vagina monitors. These are demons that want to be looked at one way, and I'm showing you what they actually are, and under the law how they're going to be treated exactly as what they are. They're enemies of this country. They're mentally deranged, and they're engaged in what is targeting American citizens, not different from foreign terrorists, with whom there will be no negotiation, and you're not going to be confused and treated in any other way. Terrorists from other countries, they go to prison. In other words, there are prisons designated for terrorists from outside of the United States, and it's going to be the same treatment with regard to terrorists that are homegrown enemies of this country. Hostile to law and order, hostile to what is the ways in which this country operates. And when you're found to be outside of what is that operation, and then you engage in conduct as though you're going to persist in that. That's what the city of Ontario is demonstrating to the rest of the country. And you need to pay attention, because you're living in a city just like that. You're living amongst gang stalkers, gang members, terrorists, just like that. You're living in a territory that is hostile, engaging in terrorism, just like that. It is requiring what is martial law. Like as though that this is the illusion. And I want to be clear, the illusion that is the fake sun and the engineer light and the fake lunar light, that's the illusion that's in their mind. They're delusional. They entertain illusions. You are not going to have some uprising and you're going to engage in terrorism. You're going to know you're not. Your crazy self is going to prison. You're going to prison. You're going to be locked up where animals like you belong. That's what's behind this white male who was a demon-possessed gang stalker, very likely a drug addict, coming and gang stalking me with all these demons that are having a field day in his brain, and I'm prosecuting him in the physical. He's doing so with the gang members of the Ontario International Airport, the gang members of the Ontario Police Department. Psychopaths just pacing back and forth and 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 back and forth, where you already know the fake sun is rising and setting. Those are the demon-possessed. Like license 8 Apple Xavier Mary 441, doing so as a population. And so that's what's prefacing every license plate that I'm going to capture, where the gang members are engaged in that conduct, and they are also very mentally ill. They call this witchcraft. They call this some sort of spiritual. It's not. It's mentally ill conduct. That is, I also want to say, not only is it ineffective, speaking to what is your mental illness in the absence of any spiritually effective conduct, it's not witchcraft. It's mentally ill behavior, and it's criminal. And it's also captured as a matter of evidence regarding the absence of any question that you are indeed engaging in the allegations asserted by an American citizen who is speaking to what is the targeted individual that fills the United States, who are speaking to things that they don't have the evidence to prove. And it's also relevant regarding what are mental asylums that the mentally ill who presuppose that they're engaged in any matter of witchcraft, which they would deny. They're not even able to openly address that they're engaged in gang stalking, and that's where the P.O.C. comes in, because a psychopath doesn't have to say a word, just like the demons at the bus stop. And I will be prosecuting you. You'll be going to federal prison, whether you're foolish enough to say anything or whether you are foolish enough to sit there silent. Anything that you do, damned if you do and damned if you don't, it's absolutely it. 1661859 vehicle 1073. That's a demon stalking under the fake sun on Euclid Avenue. I just took an image of the entity stalking me flying over my head. The entity is doing so on this street where the entity is gang stalking with the people of the state, doing so from 6 to 8:14 a.m., doing so as a agent of the state, conspiring my murder, sitting right next to me, conspiring my murder, gang stalking. This is terrorism by the government that does so with the people of the state. 9 UXP 534, psychopathic pacing with the Ontario Police Department that is engaged in criminal surveillance, not law enforcement. And they are, again, literally the tutorial. They are my PowerPoint presentation to prosecute in court and also to teach the masses regarding what the U.S. government is doing to American citizens and its demonic activity. All right, this is P.O.C. It is currently 8:20 a.m. This is prefacing the ongoing terrorism by the demons who are not engaged in what is witchcraft. They're engaged in what is they are delusional about. The fact that what they thought was spiritual power is actually tricking them into what is their inability to cease engaging what is not serving them, and that's because they are addicted to that which was never working in the first place. You know what this conduct works? It works against the demon possessed. That's what it works against. So you have what is the entity that is engaged in what is mentally ill behavior, not witchcraft. They refer to it as witchcraft. They call themselves engaging in what is siphoning spiritual. You're not siphoning anything. What you're doing is accumulating time in federal prison and in mental asylums. And that's a fact. Okay, the entities engage in criminal conduct, which is also lacking in any controversy regarding whether you're targeting, whether you're stalking, whether you're mentally ill, and that's a fact as well. The entities engaging in that as an entity in a specific environment, tying everyone in that environment together, the absence of any stranger, the absence of any lawful conduct, the absence of any defense in court, that's a fact as well. And it is not witchcraft. It is not spiritually effective. It has no spiritual potency whatsoever. And it is also no contest for Christ Jesus and the Holy Spirit. These are mentally ill psychopaths who are in a cycle which is serving for my prosecutorial purposes. They're going to prison and they're going to be deported. They're being separated from children. And they are also going to be prosecuted as terrorists in the United States. And it makes up the people of the state. I'm going to prosecute the people of the state. The current license plates that I'm going to recite represent an entity that are engaging in what is that pattern of conduct as one. While one crosses path, the entity is engaging in what is essentially, if you are familiar with the game Double Dutch, jumping rope, you're doing so. You have the teammates that are at both ends of the rope. They're turning the rope, and they're doing so while one is jumping in the center. You can have another one jump. You can have more than one person jumping rope when you're engaging in Double Dutch. One is jumping in and one is jumping out, but they're maintaining that ongoing system of the ropes turning together and making sure you're not interrupting, and nobody is interrupting the pattern of conduct. It is ceaselessly underway. The entities engaging in what is Double Dutch conduct, teamwork, in other words, cooperative conduct. They are always maintaining presence in the path. They're doing so under what is a system that was supposed to appear as though everybody's a stranger and everybody's engaging in that which they have a protection right under the Constitution to engage in, and what has nothing to do with the target individual, because that's supposed to create the appearance of being a paranoid schizophrenic, being one that is hallucinating, being one that is actually a harm to everybody else that is actually conspiring their murder, gang stalking them. And that is highly unintelligent, and on its face it's speaking to what is deranged behavior while they are in this specific environment, stalking as a population, engaging in the absurdly deranged conduct of wanting to be as close as possible to stalk and monitor you as a monitoring spirit. That's what this is with regard to Double Dutch conduct in the specific environment. One demon drives by, but that's not the end of the stalking in the path. The entity is doing so by sitting right next to me in operation of devices in that engineered environment. You're going to look at the engineer light while these demons are studying their devices, while these demons are engaging in what is crossing path on the roads and the highways, while these demons are engaging crossing a path in the sky space, while these demons are maintaining presence in every facilitating venue, Starbucks, Chevron, ARCO, Bethel Congregation, Hermandad, the 602 studio, the 24-hour studio that's not making any hits. I'm going to hit them with the prosecution. Okay, they're engaging in criminal activity. I believe it's Ontario Health Services, gang stalking, demons on the sidewalks, pedestrians that are sharing in the pattern of conduct. This is psychopathic pacing all around me. They're all stalking together. One is crossing path. That's called stalking. When you're gang stalking, they don't have to, they're not engaging in conduct as with regard to traditional stalking, following you from place to place with the same identifiable person that you would, it's John, he's the one that's stalking. No, John is being replaced with what is an entity that is stalking you. That's everybody on the freeway is maintaining relevant position around you, and everybody on the freeway is surrounded with the evidence proving that, which with regard to what is contradicting nature, science, and common sense and logic, because the entity is doing so under things like a fake sun that never removes itself from being over you. And that's how you're aware of an entity that is stalking you together. That's what's sitting up stalking for hours at the bus stop, and that's what's going to federal prison, and they won't be able to access, because of federal prison, they won't be feeding their drug addiction, where then they're amped up and foolish enough to come gang stalk me in my face on behalf of a department that's being disbanded and being subject to mental examinations. You're looking at the Ontario police stalking me while a demon is sitting at the bus stop and getting on and off of the Omnitrans buses, engaging in that pattern of conduct. Understand what's the difference? Those demons are dressing up in costumes as police officers. It's the same demon possession. Okay? Same psychopathic pacing, same P.O.C. Alrighty? I just want to make sure that that's clear, because this is relevant to the entity that is going to be prosecuted, and you do not have to document thousands of people. I am establishing precedent for everyone. And how can I do that? Because the pattern of conduct is uniform. They are in Mississippi engaging in the same exact pattern of conduct. And how do you know that? Because there's only one sun. And based on the exclusivity of the natural environment, including only one sun, the entity was stupid enough to have one sun over me, and I captured it on more than one day. So you kept that over me, and that's evidence that is sitting on the record, never going to be forgotten, not separate from what these demons are doing this morning in a specific environment where that evidence is already present, and it's used in informing everybody that steps into my trap with regard to putting you in a facility where you belong, putting you out of the country where you belong, separating you from whatever field that you're working in where you're a threat to the public where you belong, putting you in whatever, separating you from minor children where you belong, having no access to them, where you are gang stalking. Yes, it is hard, tangible, direct evidence of your threat that you pose to minors. Absolutely. The ability to gang stalk is the threat, is the same mutual threat that would be relevant to minor children who cannot defend themselves, protect themselves. Gang stalking is exceedingly violent sexual, is an exceedingly violent sexual act committed against an American citizen, and you are simultaneously exposing the fact that you're a threat to children. You're simultaneously exposing the fact that you're a threat to the American people. You're a threat to the public. You're un-American. You're not welcome in this country. That's why you're going to be deported. If you're not subject to prison, because you're going to serve your time and then you're getting kicked out. Just want to make sure that that's all clear. Because these are the demons that don't have any brain power. They also don't have any spiritual power. This isn't witchcraft. They're not magical. They're mental. Okay? They're mental. This is P.O.C. And the following are engaging in that pattern of conduct. It's already including the city of Ontario. That's the umbrella, the prosecution of American Medical Response, the Ontario Fire Department, the Ontario Police Department, the Ontario International Airport, the removal of Mike Lorenz. Mike Lorenz, but Paul Leon. Okay? This is P.O.C. And it is currently 8:27 a.m. All right, Omnitrans, state actor, bus 2349. License plate 1545906. And at 7:01 a.m., one of the terrorists engaging in surveilling me and doing so conspicuously. It's threatening enough for terrorism to be underway, for an entity to pose an impermissible threat. They are, by their conduct, communicating the threat. License plate 05138 George 2 shares in that threat that I'm going to stalk you with your knowledge, in your face, conspiring your death in your presence while you document me doing so, while you're in the midst of a federal investigation to enforce your rights against me as an entity. This is what the government is stating. And they're doing so in the face of that law that they're in violation of, with knowledge of it, and they persist in that criminal pattern of conduct. That's the entity that is subject to federal prison. You are escalating federal charges while you pose that impermissible threat. This is what an entity is doing that's gang stalking upon documentation, doing so, stalking conspicuously, and the illusion regarding anybody doing anything other than stalking is long gone. The illusion that you're doing anything other than gang stalking as a corrupt society that has failed in maintaining any secrecy, maintaining any level of self-control. In other words, if you were documented and you had any sort of organization or any sort of strategy or any sort of tactics, clearly they're not. They're a bunch of thugs. They're a bunch of criminals. They're a bunch of lawless animals that engage in all manner of chaotic means of targeting somebody. And so all I do with the pattern of conduct is show you how it's very clear to show you how they're targeting. In the environment, they have no brain power, no intellect with what they're doing. They're merely demons and gang members that engage in all manner of criminal activity together, and they rely on bullying. They rely on corruption in order to get away with it. That's why how are you going to deal with the gang stalking police? They're going to prison. Because that's how you have that sort of ignoramus, having that sort of boldness, having that sort of, where do you get your level of foolishness from, which they confuse with bravado. They confuse with being like you're not retaliating, fool. You're admitting in court that you want to go to prison and that you're mentally ill and that you're engaging in terrorism. That's what you're admitting in court. You're a fool. This is an entity that's engaging in that, but where do they get that false sense of confidence? Where do these fools get the idea that it's a good idea for me to drive 250 miles per hour off of the precipice to my demise? Who tells them that? First of all, it's Satan. Second of all, it's based on the fact that they are unintelligent. These are demons. Demons do not have any brain power. And it doesn't matter. I want to be clear. Do not be deceived. A demon-possessed person with a college education does not equal an intelligent person. They have literally been dumbed down by virtue of that demon-possessed state. There is no difference among them. That is the ability to categorize them. I literally want to be clear on that. If that were not the case, they would not be surrounded in the same exact manner. College education, living in a dumpster, and with no high school degree. Still engaging in that same exact pattern of conduct, which is very foolish. And it's also very foolish to do so in real time while the prosecutor is creating the evidence which they're going to play in the court to put you out of the country, to separate you from children, to put you in prison, to prosecute you as a terrorist, to put you on a list maintained by the Department of, maintained by the federal government, in other words, whatever the department they want, but it's going to be maintained with regard to identifying. You're going to be able to literally look up terrorists in this country. Like a sex offender, because that's what they are, like a sex offender on Megan's list. You're going to be able to look them up. They're not maintaining any privacy, and that's for the safety of American citizens. Okay? What type of baboon engages in that? Somebody that doesn't have any brain power, somebody that does not understand what they're doing anymore because it's not magic. Nobody's fooled. The only ones that are fooled are the ones that are doing it in plain view in front of everyone, including the feds. The feds, which I have had to put in a chokehold in order to do their job. And I'm going to prosecute for that. Because but for the P.O.C., the American citizen whom I'm advocating on behalf of is already dead. So what has the federal government committed? What have they done? I'm going to prosecute for that. Because the answer is a crime. An unprecedented one. Okay? This is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, 8:32 a.m. The audible activity, pay attention to the patterns. These are demons. When I speak to the entity, the Department of Justice is going to maintain something analogous to a Megan's Law, where you can look at sex offenders operating student or transportation of America school buses being prosecuted as terrorists. You're going to be able to look them up, look up the companies, look up the names, look up the former so-called police officers who are terrorists, been prosecuted. You're going to be able to look them up like any other sex offender on Megan's list. But it's on a international level, because this is throughout the country. And that's for the safety of American citizens. They can't just go get a job anywhere. They can't just go live in any neighborhood. All right. They can't just move to a different county and then take up an opportunity with another sheriff's department or police department. No, you're done, and you are absolutely done. You're really done. And everyone's going to know who you are. That's the same right that you maintain when a sex offender is released from jail or prison. And you're talking about that threat of recidivism. Okay, when and that's relevant to what is the threat posed, the likeliness of a reoffender, offending again. You're talking about demon possession. They're engaging in the pattern of conduct. This is why I'm documenting. They're engaging in the pattern of conduct while they're being prosecuted at the same time. Okay, the risk of committing the offense again, it is unmistakably high. So you're talking about, yes, you're being prosecuted. You're talking about gang stalking, and you're going to be prosecuted and identified as a terrorist, and you're going to be identified accordingly so that people around the country can know who you are. And if they don't want to hire you, they don't have to hire you. If they want to maintain a city council meeting in order to make sure that you don't move into their neighborhood, that's exactly what they have the right to do. If they want to meet with and confer with the officials in whatever city and territory to make sure that you're not employed in any area, that's not a violation of your rights. That's enforcing their rights to not have a terrorist enter into where they live and engage in the harms that they've committed, like what the city of Ontario represents. This is an entity, as I document license plates, as I document companies, as I document airlines that want to have, they want to engage in business with different cities and states. They want to engage in business on the internet, online with the American people, and they want to do so while engaging in this at the same time. No, this is coming all to a halt. I'm going to affect your money. I'm going to affect your business. I'm going to affect your reputation. I'm going to affect how it is that you are perceived based on truth, not with like what the gang members do with criminal defamation. You're going to be known as the terrorist that you are. And they're also going to know that you did it with knowledge, with impunity. Oh, so you're not going to sit on and maintain a mask and go in front of another state or in another country and hold up some sort of false sense of identity. Oh, no, we serve to do good, and we love the people, and we want to make money and also serve the No, you don't. You're a vagina monitoring gang stalker who conspires murder and making money off of it. And you were prosecuted at X, Y, and Z for it, and they can look you up and know that. And you will not be getting any contract with people that know better, with entities that know better, with those that don't want to suffer the consequences of what they don't want to be associated. Even if they are gang stalkers, they're not going to sign with you because they don't want to be associated with you. It's not good for business. That's how that's going to come back and haunt you. If I don't get you in prison, because I'm going to get you one way or another. It is over. This is the P.O.C. All right, this is the entity that's engaged in that pattern of conduct. You're talking about prosecuting not just the individual, you're talking about the entity, you're talking about the community, you're talking about the immigrant, you're talking about that entity that's engaged in that pattern of conduct as a government body, local, state, and federal. You're talking about that entity that's doing so on a commercial means. Amazon Prime is international, and they're also engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring internationally. License plate 1545906, that's Omnitrans, engaged in that pattern of conduct. And the terrorists that are engaged in surveillance at the bus stop on behalf of the government in furtherance of murder is doing so for over 2 hours. And doing so with impunity. All right, license plate. All right, I just want to go ahead and reiterate again, license 1545906 is Omnitrans. And also, license plate 1545862 bus 2348 Omnitrans, which is engaged in psychopathic pacing. They're doing so in the specific environment. The entity is engaged in psychopathic behavior. All they're doing is going around in circles. This is the same entity that's playing double ditch, cooperative stalking, gang stalking, group stalking, and they are all tied together by what is a fake sun that's rising over me. And you'll see that image of the fake sun over me during the 8 a.m. hour. Also before that, while I'm capturing images of demons that are stalking on the roads and the highways, they're engaging in that in the engineer light. Remember, I'm showing you how to pay attention to how you're prosecuting the demon-possessed that think that you are ignorant. And what they're actually doing, these are monitoring spirits who are highly unintelligent. Okay, they're obsessive. They're delusional. They're also maniacal. So they are the biggest fools while they project their ignorance onto other people. In other words, thinking that you're not paying attention and you're not aware. And that's because they also think that they're magical. They're none of these things. And the P.O.C. is showing that. They're nothing other than severely mentally disturbed. Omnitrans, by the way, license plate 1545838. Bus 2359, psychopathic pacing. So the entities engaged in this pattern of conduct, and they're doing so while the specific environment is what you're paying attention to. You'll see them while they're all stalking. Engineer light on the roads. It's present, and then it disappears. None of that. It's not sunlight. They're all stalking. It's the evidence of stalking. It's the evidence of mental illness. That is not dormant. It's not subtle. It's not closeted. It's right in your face while they're engaging in what they think you don't recognize, you don't know. That's the entity that tries to sneak up on you and also murder you, take your life. The gang stalkers who are enemies of the United States. And they're the demon-possessed, okay? And what you need to be doing is, yes, laugh at Satan, who is a fool, projecting his ignorance onto you, okay? But also understand that Satan is an enemy of this country. And that's because Satan hates what makes up this country. The American people, human beings, people that are made in God's image, and he hates that, whether it's American or Russian or Indian or African, regardless of what you are, he hates it. Understand that's an enemy of these United States. Okay, so I just want to be clear on that. The entities engaging in the pattern of conduct, and they're doing so and exhibiting that in the specific environment, which is what you're always paying attention to. I don't get lost in the trees. I document the P.O.C. I'm documenting license plates. I'm documenting the entity stalking by whatever means, whatever iteration that it's taking on. Never forget that you're paying attention to the environment, because this is what's tying it all together. And it is an unmistakable pattern of conduct. And they're always doing so while their mental illness, which is also speaking to what is not only corrupt and psychopathic, in other words, it's also delusional. Okay, they are highly ignorant while they have told themselves that they are some sort of no, you're not. You are a bunch of vagina monitors who have been lied to, including by your leader, Satan, making you think that you were going to accomplish something against me, and that was never going to happen, and including your leader, Satan. He knew that. Okay, so they've sacrificed themselves, and they've sacrificed a lot, because I'm prosecuting for all of that and more, which the entity has sought to steal, which is privacy, which is my liberty right with regard to work and be free of terrorism, with regard to my liberty right to be free from being kidnapped. They're going to prison. They're going to pay what are civil and damages for the criminal activity that they've engaged in, doing so maliciously under the guise of company names, doing so under the guise of a government authority that's engaged in criminal activity, doing so as a people that are engaging in public corruption. the entity is going to be prosecuted for all of the above. And the irony in that is that the entity is the one that's going to be confined. The entity is the one that's going to be diagnosed for mental illness. The entity is the one that's going to be removed from the positions that they hold. And it's not going to be based on me making up things, on me defaming anybody. It's based on the truth. And it's the truth that they sought to and unintelligently tried to project onto me. And you couldn't support it with anything. You have to make up everything that you're doing with regard to your clear stalking. Everything that they make up is pursuant to stalking me. Don't ever forget that. They're always stalking, regardless of everything that they're claiming. You're stalking. Okay? You are a stalker. Okay? That's the P.O.C. That's the entity that's engaged in that. So omnitrans is engaged in psychopathic pacing, and it's occurring under the guise of maintaining a business that I'm going to thoroughly prosecute in civil and in criminal law. All right? Excuse me, in civil and criminal court. License plate 8JKL107. License plate 7 Nancy Frank Kelly 428. I just want to be clear, those are cowards that are maintaining, it's audible activity they're monitoring, but these are cowards that don't want you to hear what it is that I'm documenting. Of course you can hear it. But when I say things that they're scared of, the audible activity gets louder. When I say things that they don't want you to hear, you're going to hear it anyway, but it's because they're scared. And these are the things that you should laugh at about Satan that is engaging in what is gang conduct, because also Satan is scared. You're intimidated by the one that you're stalking with helicopter. And you're also a coward. All right, but it's also tangible evidence which is going to put you in prison. People that are stalking somebody in a helicopter, they go into mental asylums. Those are unstable people, and they are not going to be in law enforcement in any territory in the United States. They're going to prison, and they're going to the area in prison where they're going to be talking to, like I like to put in a comical phrase, they're going to be talking to that lady. Because that's where crazy people that are stalking in helicopters belong. And they want you to think that they're police officers. This is what Sergeant Hall is representing, badge number 80491. Everybody remember that. While she's stalking me under the fake moon, she's going to prison. All right. This is the entity that's engaged in that conduct, and it's not separate. What's happening under the fake moon at 8 o'clock at night at the OVITT Family Community Library is underway days later on January 6, 2025. It's a ceaseless pattern of conduct. So we're looking at the ongoing criminal pattern of conduct that Sergeant Hall and S. Casas and R. Lilly and all the demons that refuse to provide their badge number, which is an additional federal charge, while you're conspiring by murder, wearing a gun and a badge, engaging in what is acting like you have authority under the law, and you are indeed acting while you're gang stalking. Nobody's missing that. You can be as delusional as you want, as you continuously engage in stalking me, which is also proven by evidence. And that pattern of conduct is shown going from the library, going to the ARCO, going to the bus stop. And what same department is engaged in stalking me? That same one that's claiming through her audible activity while you are gang stalking me, claiming that you're uninterested in doing so, like I'm the least important topic, and you're lying out of your face, Satan. You are lying. Like you lie every day about what you are and what you're doing. You have a whole fake identity. It's as fake as the fake sun that remains over me, where you're worshiping me in my vagina. But you're embarrassed, and that's why you make what is implausible forms of audible activity under all circumstances. Your lies are criminal activity. While you speak the truth and admit to criminal summoning, it's audible activity. Under the fake moon and the engineer light, under all circumstances, you're going to prison. I'm prosecuting you. And also your partners that are stalking me, hours later, the next day, and the next day after that, and before you engage in criminal summoning at the OVITT Family Community Library, stalking me by helicopters, and you're going to federal prison. These are the only ones that compartmentalize and separate in their mind that they're getting away with something at one specific area of time. There's a whole pattern of conduct, and the crime is underway 24 hours a day. The investigation never takes a pause, neither does the criminal activity. Sergeant Hall that arrived at that OVITT Family Community Library stalking with this population that are pacing, because that's what that demon in that uniform is engaging in. As though she's a sergeant. No, sergeants are not demons. Sergeants are not criminals. Sergeants are not stalkers. Sergeants are not sex offenders. Sergeants are not domestic terrorists that want to masquerade as having authority under the law. Sergeants are not hostile and bullies engaging in what is criminal activity while trying to conspicuously engage in what is criminal activity to psychologically torture somebody. That's a terrorist. That's a psychopath. That's not a sergeant. These terms actually have real meanings. You are not a sergeant, and the evidence shows that, and so do you yourselves. You betray yourself as a department, stalking me one moment and then stalking me also the next moment, and it's within a pattern of conduct. You're delusional. Your own mental illness is serving my prosecutorial purposes, like I said from the outset. And by the way, you're all Looney Tunes stalking me under a fake sun. You're not a sergeant. You're unfit. You are entirely unfit. And your worldwide exposure is absolutely necessary to make sure that that is abundantly clear, and also what justice requires for demons like that that masquerade as being sergeants, threatening to engage in what is kidnapping. We all know who you think you are, but what you actually are is a terrorist, and your time is ticking because you're going to federal prison. Because all of that audible activity, all of that criminal activity, all of that unlawful threat to my life, impliedly and expressly, are federal offenses, and you're going to prison for it. Nothing less than federal prison. Because of what you're representing, because of what you are asserting with regard to authority that you don't actually have while you're exercising it fictitiously with regard to corruption, you're going to prison for it. And your buddies that are stalking me by helicopter help put you there in the same way that you help put your demon-possessed buddies that are stalking me in helicopters all over the internet while you're so bright and you know what federal stalking is, but you're doing it conspicuously. You're a fool. You're going to prison. This is what stalking in as an entity under the fake sun at Euclid Avenue, and doing so as a bunch of drug addicts at the bus stop for over 2 hours, okay? Or for just under 2 hours, engaging in surveillance with those gang members. They are all of the same gang. You're not a sergeant, you're a gang member. You're a thug. You serve what are stereotypes in order for you to not be looked at as what you actually are. Okay, you're more of a thug than the typical black male in the west side of Compton. You're the thug. You are the thug. You're the criminal. You're the threat. That's the truth. That's supported with facts, not stereotypes that you rely on. All right, not hearsay and gossip and innuendos. All right, this is the entity that's engaged in that. She is actually a thug. She's not a sergeant, and she is going to prison. And she's obsessed with me. She knows everything that I'm stating, every syllable that I utter. That's the reality. She's the thug. And she's engaging in criminal activity with those that are in Compton, by the way, where they want to make you think that the two are different and the two are sharing in a criminal pattern of conduct. They're all gang members. They're gang stalkers. That's P.O.C. If you want to slice that down, I'll break that down for you as well. Okay? These are illusions. You're going to be prosecuted for what you are and what you're doing. Period. Under the law. All right, this is the pattern of conduct, so I want to make sure that that's the license plate because they're sharing in that. License 8JKL107. License 7 Nancy Frank Kelly 428. License 8 Yolanda Sam Zebra 338. License 9 Sam Henry David 219. Again, 9 Sam Henry David 219, or you're talking about 9 Sam Henry 0219. It is captured at 7:48 and 9 seconds. It's on the Google Drive on January 6th, and you will see that image. I'm going to keep it there. It's legible with regard to documenting that terrorist in that black SUV. License looks like 9 Robert. Hold on. 9 Robert 9 Larry 880, substantially similar. That looks like a white. Yeah, that's another white SUV captured at 7:48 a.m. and 20 seconds on the Google Drive. License Edward George 27 Zebra 52 paper plate 8YQP072. License 9A Jerry Yolanda Zebra 06 or 9A Jerry Yolanda 206, rather, a white Tesla. License 6 Xavier Uncle Zebra 223. License 7 Xavier Mary Nancy 982. License plate 8 Thomas Edward Nancy 106. License 7 Robert Charlie Nancy 175. License 8 Jerry Mary Charlie 837. License 9 Apple Queen Apple 997. License 9 Frank Edward Nancy 703. License 5 Zebra Thomas Zebra 879. License 4 Kelly Larry Victor 369. Substantially similar. That's an old Scion. It's on the Google Drive. License 4 Bob, Jerry, Yolanda, 134. License 9 Edward, Nancy, Thomas, 435. Gang stalking in a school bus. Student Transportation of America is also identification of a third-party gang stalker. License plate 71751 Frank 2. License 7 Wendy, Henry, Zebra, 753. License 9 Nancy, Xavier, Zebra, 145. License plate 7 George, Jerry, Apple, 553. License plate 55598 David, 4. License plate 9 Wendy, Robert, Paul, 468. License plate 8 Apple, Kelly, Nancy, 335. License plate 9 Henry, Sam, Larry, 466, I believe. 9 Henry, 9 Henry, Sam, Larry, 466. License 9 Uncle, Apple, Charlie, 380. License 6 Zebra, Indiana, Jerry, 995. License 1318 0 Larry, 2, I believe. It's all on the Google Drive. License 7 Thomas Uncle Xavier, 997. Documented, again, many of these demons, gang stalking, very familiar license plates, and that's relevant to prosecuting them. Serial stalking. Serially engaging in the conspiracy to murder. Serially engaging in what is conspicuous stalking. That's an unlawful threat. License 7 Uncle Indiana Victor, 243. License, I want to say 1302464. It's on the Google Drive. License CNECTD, connected is the abbreviation. So Charlie, Nancy, Edward, Charlie, Thomas, David, on a white Tesla. License 8 Charlie, Kelly, Apple, 528. 9 Thomas, Wendy, Sam, 239. 9 Edward, Zebra, Edward, 701. 9 Wendy, 9 Wendy, David, Yolanda, 084. License 7819 4 Charlie, 4. License 9 Kelly, David, Sam, 082, I believe. License 9 Sam, Robert, Yolanda, 198. License 9 Paul, Wendy, 501, I believe. License 9 8 Xavier, Yolanda, 171. License 8 Robert, Charlie, Kelly, 651. License 8 David, Thomas, Bob, 961, I believe. License 9 Thomas, Yolanda, Nancy, 919. License 9 Henry, Bob, Jerry, 299. Excuse me. License plate. Let's see. License plate 9 Jerry, Thomas, Xavier, 201. License 56985 Charlie, 3. License plate 9 Paul, I believe that's a Queen, Yolanda, 198. 8 Paul, 0Y198, but I believe that's a Q. 8 Paul, Queen, Yolanda, 198 on a 4Runner. It's on the Google Drive. License plate. Ontario Montclair School District, documented gang stalking in a school bus. License 1703578. License plate 8 Zebra, Queen, David, 026. License plate it's Jeanette, so it's spelled Jerry, Apple, Nancy, Edward, Thomas, Indiana, Edward. License plate, I believe that's 9 Jerry, Edward, Xavier, 317. License plate 8 Victor, Larry, Zebra, 807. License 9 Apple, Charlie, 974. License 9 Larry, Frank, Sam, 334. 9 Frank, Charlie, Paul, 521. License Larry, Edward, Sam, George, 0 Charlie, George. Sharing, and I want to be clear, surveillance by the 2 terrorists that engaged in surveillance at the bus stop from 6 to 8:14 a.m. One of the terrorists got on, and he's a serial stalker. I documented him. what is the previous day on the 4th, gang stalking me, and you're gang stalking while you get aboard, then gang stalker Omnitrans in the engineer light. Omnitrans is gang stalking. The people of the state are gang stalking. The Ontario International Airport is gang stalking. The Ontario Police Department are gang stalking. You are gang stalking as you then get on the bus, the same elements of monitoring. In addition, I've shown, like I stated, what are they doing aboard Omnitrans? Who's driving Omnitrans buses? Gang stalkers and gang stalking. Okay, so this is the P.O.C. and the entities engaging in that while they are previously documented. This is relevant to surveillance that even these demons that are crossing path, and I'm reading their license plates, they're sitting right here stalking as an entity. Stalking, wanting to be close to me, obsessively stalking me while monitoring as an entity at the same time. Understand what this is. This is literally demon possession. They all share the same demon possessed condition. They also share the same identity as an entity. They're sitting next to me and they're engaged in psychopathic pacing all around me together. That's what they're doing while they're surrounding. And they're engaging in that as I'm reading their license plates, and they're sharing in sexual assault and battery. License plate, 9 Charlie Robert Xavier 278. License plate. Five Nancy George Sam 848. License 8 Yolanda Sam Zebra 338. License 8 Frank George Yolanda 136. License 5 Victor Charlie Jerry 976. License 8 Zebra Henry Edward 300. License 39279 Jerry 4. License 49958 George 3. License 5 Robert Victor Apple 126. 9 Thomas Uncle Apple 555, I believe. License Robert Nancy 2243. It is captured on the Google Drive. It's on a black Nissan Frontier, and that may or may not be a California plate. License plate 6 Edward Thomas Uncle 671. License Let's see. By the way, it's 8:58 a.m. All right, license 9 Larry Uncle Kelly 490. In case I did not read that one. Trying to go through, get the license that license 8 Wendy Apple Thomas 170. License 9 Henry Yolanda Edward 307. 6 Zebra Apple 368. License 8 Yolanda Bob Paul 025. License 9 Paul Sam Nancy 401. License or actually 9 Paul Sam Nancy 403. Either one. It is on the Google Drive. This is captured at 7:54 and 48 seconds. And the other license is 8YBP025 in that image. License plate 8 Thomas Frank George, I believe, 413. License 8 Apple Jerry Yolanda 185. License 9 Jerry Nancy Victor 074. 4 Thomas Yolanda Apple 478. 8 Uncle Yolanda Larry 793. 7 Uncle Wendy Kelly 143. 48723 Kelly 3. License 5 George Xavier Kelly 159. License 38173 Thomas 2. 8 Zebra Queen Nancy 948. License Charlie Apple David 4 David 0 Bob. CAD 4 DOB, I believe. This is a demon. License Charlie Apple David 4 David 0 Bob. Oh, that could be an 8 also. I believe it's a B. That's a B. License 8 Apple Zebra Mary 427. 8 Larry David Thomas 799, I believe. License 6632X. I believe that's a handicap plate. This is a Toyota Camry, and it is substantially similar to that, what I read. It's captured at 7:56 and 23 seconds. It's on the Google Drive. License 9 Larry Hendry Wendy 924. That's Omnitrans. That's Omnitrans. It's audible activity. They're monitoring. They know who I am. License plate. And that's license 1545833 bus 2353 under the fake sun. That's called malice. When they're creating activity and the honk is under the guise of, are you getting on the bus? Are you getting on the bus? It's activity creation while they're pacing with an entity that also knows who I am. Doing so where the airport is stalking. Remember, you're going to use all the evidence to diagnose them. You're a psychopath. And not only, you're not ignorant, the evidence shows that you're not ignorant. You're going to be prosecuted for your psychopathic disorder while you're conspiring the murder of an entity. And this is going to be relevant to prosecuting a business. I'm going to prosecute businesses for conspiring my murder. Businesses are going to be prosecuted for criminal activity. Businesses are going to be subject to damages assessed for the criminal activity that they've committed with regard to incalculable harms, harms that you cannot quantify, harms that are not even ever before contemplated under federal law. I'm going to recover for it. And it's establishing a basis why you should not be engaging in gang stalking with the government that's very highly unintelligent. Okay, the government doesn't have a system. The government engaged in bullying people, getting away with it because they thought that they're so magical nobody would ever show it. Okay, so then when that's not working, then what are you going to do? Oh, now you're showing everybody that you've just been a psychopathic vagina monitor from the outset. Now you're crazies on the outside. In other words, you're not hiding it. Well, you weren't hiding it from me at the outset. So the fact that I have to undergo what is the Herculean feat of providing a body of evidence, that's speaking to what an American citizen has a right to not be subject to. And they don't make it. They don't ever get to this level. They're dead already. They're a vegetable in a facility already. While the demons of the Ontario Police Department are spending money that they were compensated for to murder that person. To not investigate, do their job, while the entity murders that person, which they are a part of that entity. That's why they're being paid to engage in things like stalking them in helicopters, stalking them on the roads and the highways, kidnapping them pursuant to malicious assertions that they know are not true, while they're monitoring with that entity that makes those assertions. Yeah, acting as though you're a police officer when you're stalking the whole time. That's going to be relevant to diagnosing psychopathic disorders, antisocial disorders. It's malicious. You're going into facilities, demons. I just want to let you know that you're going into facilities. That's what Omnitrans is engaging in. Omnitrans knows exactly who I am targeting, and the evidence shows that it's activity creation. Back to the license plates. License plate. License. Let's see. 83300 Frank 3. Actually, 83300 Edward 3. License plate. 77328 David 4. License plate. 6 Thomas 0 Victor 594. License plate 5 Yolanda Thomas George 584. License plate 93039 Bob 4. License 9 Jerry David Sam 983. License 6 Nancy Mary David 376. License plate 6 Wendy Edward Larry 522. 6 Uncle Yolanda Bob 216. 8 Mary Uncle Nancy 124. 8 Larry Bob Jerry 080. License plate 9 Paul Henry Frank 695. License 9 Frank Xavier Paul 749. License Mary Sam Bob 0 Sam. A demon that would like to refer to themselves on a license plate where I'm identifying them as a gang stalker and furtherance of murder where no boss is engaged in that, referring to him or herself as Miss Boss. Satan is laughable. Anyway, license plate 5 Paul Frank Paul 018. License 6 Sam Jerry Victor 189. License 7 looks like 78819 David 3. License plate 9. License plate 9 Robert Uncle Xavier 389, substantially similar. All right, and you will see the fake sun hovering over me where this entity is engaged in psychopathic pacing, doing so. And what you're listening to right now, the moment that I turn on my camera, that's a change in function operation. You can hear the plane activity competing with my voice. That's the entity that's stalking. That's what they were doing with the gang members engaging conspicuous stalking for from 6 a.m. hour until 8:14 a.m. when I began documenting via podcast. The entity is engaging in what is requiring martial law. And I'm recalling for you in my screenshots capturing today while martial law is required for terrorists of the Ontario International Airport, of the Ontario Police Department, the people of the state. This domestic terrorism that's underway where murderers are engaging in this criminal conduct, this lawlessness, and doing so with this level of being obvious with it. That's very psychotic. And it's also suicidal, self-destructive. This is the entity that will engage in killing itself while killing other people. This is what UPS is doing in Kentucky under the fake sunset, where the plane flies into the building and kills a group of people. The entity is doing this when they're flying into military helicopters on the East Coast. The entity is doing that when they are flying into bodies of water, when they are flying celebrities from place to place, and those celebrities are subject to helicopter crashes. This is the entity that's engaging in what is obvious stalking while they're exposed. These are the demon-possessed that are engaging in what are surveillance, and they're doing so as demon-possessed people who are very much suicidal, and that suicidal tendency is captured while they're engaging in what is providing evidence against itself while stalking in this obvious manner, which again, the entity who are the people of the state, demons that want to keep custody of their kids, demons that don't want to be deported out of the country, demons that don't want to be subject to what are being listed as terrorists in the country, which is an exceedingly violent sex offense, an un-American one with regard to terrorism, demons that don't want to be blacklisted with regard to terrorists that are identified as companies, all the demons that are going to want to convey one thing in public while the evidence is showing the clear difference otherwise. The demons that are mentally ill and are thinking about only right now with regard to the absence of brain power by monitoring spirits, when they're engaged in that conduct, and then at the next moment where they're not thinking about that, they're only thinking about right now, and understand what's the threat in that. What are you analyzing? I'm showing you how to analyze Satan. Understand the threat. Understand the mental illness behind the demon-possessed. They are not thinking about consequences. Long-term, they have no strategy. They will engage in what is harming as many people, engaging in as much severe harm as they think that they are, and that they think that they can get away with. That's all they're thinking about. They're not thinking about losing their business. They're not thinking about their kids going homeless. They're not thinking about their spouses going to prison with them, going into poverty. They're not thinking about any of that. Okay, this is an obsessive, psychotic, maniacal spirit, and it's demonic, and it's criminal activity. It's all state action. So this is describing the government that is a terrorist, that is betraying American citizens, keeping them under surveillance. Not just the character of the demon-possessed, it's describing the criminal activity of the government. And that's what is, again, no airport takeoffs from the one airport in Ontario. That's not going to be hovering like I captured in the image. Not coincidentally doing so while I'm describing what I do. I'm reading the license plates, so you know that I'm reviewing my evidence while I'm reading license plates. You can hear me go into the fake sun as I begin capturing. You'll see the fake sun. That's when I switch the function on my phone. When I switch the function on my phone, that's when you hear the plane activity. That's the entity that's monitoring what you're doing on your devices. You are under surveillance. Okay? The entity's doing so while they are simultaneously conceding to the fact that they're stalking me. And there are people that are going to prison for stalking me, people like Sergeant Hall. Okay? This is the entity that's engaged in that P.O.C. and the entity's not thinking about that because the demon-possessed never had a strategy for getting caught. And so now they are being what they've been at the outset. These are monitoring spirits, and they are overwhelmed, taken over by Satan, and they're engaging in the bidding of Satan, and that's what Satan does. He drags people to hell. Okay, he destroys, and this entity has they have sacrificed. You're going to prison. I told you where you're going, and that's where you're going. You're going to prison, and they're doing so as Satan followers, and they're not engaging in any sort of. Satan has deceived them. They're not magical. They're mentally ill. It's going to be very bad. In other words, so this is the P.O.C. You're paying attention because this is criminal conduct that you're listening to. That's federal stalking on my device. You're engaging in surveillance on my device. You're not coincidentally engaging in what is remember gang stalking. Gang stalking is relevant to surveillance in my path. You're physically stalking me. You're physically stalking with knowledge of what I'm doing on my device, which you're unlawfully keeping under surveillance. They're also doing that with regard to surveillance that's underway on the internet, while a demon that does not exercise any strategy, restraint, what are future consequences, the implications regarding the rest of the entity that is indeed targeting you, which is also not anybody's imagination, are going to be prosecuted with that same evidence. As I change functions on my phone, so the entity begins competing with the sound of my voice, meaning that's a plane that's very close. And the takeoffs are occurring at 2500 Airport Terminal 2, Terminal 4. That's the entity that is indeed stalking and is engaged in what is criminal surveillance on phones. You're subject to an illusion regarding your Fourth Amendment right to an unlawful search of your device. It's an illusion when they're not physically touching your phone or taking your phone or requesting your phone. You're under surveillance in your home, as you travel, out in public, at all places and at all times. And my being gang stalked is a prophetic message to you regarding what is underway in the United States. Criminal surveillance. And they are engaging in what is an organized system of crime. And the United States has betrayed American citizens and is engaging in terrorism with those outside of this country. Internationally. Our privacy does not exist, and those outside of the United States know all of our business, in other words. I just want to let you know that. While very much foolish actors are engaging in this P.O.C, telling all their secrets. 7RZH063. And this is demonic. So this is unspoken. The demon possessed are not going to tell you, so I'm going to tell you what they're doing. I'm going to tell you exactly, and I'm proving it with evidence. This is what the demon possessed are doing. All right, it's currently 9:13 a.m. under the fake sun that you will see in the images over me on this street. License plate. I believe I read license 8 Thomas 183 Frank 4. That's a white van driving south on Euclid Avenue at 7:56 and 25 seconds. License plate. Yeah, I read that one. License 6 Thomas 0 Victor 594. License plate. 5YTG584. Okay, I read these. I'm reviewing. Hold on one second. All right, license 9 Jerry 0 Sam 983. I believe I read. And 6 Nancy Mary David 376. This is where I believe 6 Wendy Edward Larry 522. I read. Okay, license plate 9 Victor Xavier 670. 9 Wendy Henry Kelly 320. 23691 Thomas 2, and that is 24-hour emergency service plumbing and air. The phone number is 1-800-25-plumber, and plumbing and air is a third-party gang stalking business, and it's a third-party operating that vehicle engaged in federal stalking along Euclid Avenue, gang stalking me on the roads and the highways. That's a commercial actor, license 23691 Thomas 2. License 8 Kelly Victor Kelly 951. License 9 Edward Jerry Kelly D as in David 79, I believe. So 9 Edward Jerry Kelly David 79. License 8 Thomas Sam Thomas 579. License 8 Victor Charlie Frank 222. License 7 Edward George Henry 422. License Larry Uncle Charlie 0MOM. License plate 51793 Apple 4, I believe. Substantially similar. It's on the Google Drive. It's a gray Chevrolet. At 7:58 a.m. and 56 seconds. License 9 Apple 0 David 576. License 9 Thomas Queen Henry 944. License plate 8 Sam Mary Sam 665. License 9 Kelly Sam Thomas 066. License 7 Henry 0 David 186. That's Student Transportation of America. That's gang stalking. A threat to children, by the way. License 8 Nancy Yolanda Uncle 798. License 3718 Zebra Wendy 1. License 8 Robert George Nancy 060. License 8 Xavier Nancy Thomas 899. License 9 Paul Kelly 957. License 9 Frank Henry Paul 547. License 4 Mary Queen Bob 819. License 96123 Mary 1. Edward Larry 41 Frank 45. That's a paper plate. License 38474 Yolanda 3. That's on a large white truck. That's a commercial actor. License 7 Bob Xavier 955. 6 Yolanda David Zebra 579. 8 Samuel Apple 536. License 9 Robert Xavier Yolanda 570. 9 Thomas Yolanda Mary 955. 6 Yolanda George Larry 614. I believe this is 8 Robert Indiana Nancy David 70, I believe. Substantially similar. 8 Apple Thomas Nancy 314. 9 Kelly Edward Charlie 057. 40902 Kelly 3. 8 Wendy Kelly Henry 509. The entity is flying over the top of my head with a smaller government plane at 8:19 a.m. and 14 seconds, where this entity, including every license plate that represents the entire entity, because you don't have to document all 8,500 people that are along the perimeter of where you're located. You don't have to document the millions of people in California to establish the pattern of conduct by the state. The entity has done that by maintaining an illusion around you, an illusion that is highly unintelligent. And while the entity keeps a fake sun over you on one street in one city from the beginning to the end of the day, it is already exposing what's going on, for example, in Madera, California. Okay, it's exposing what's happening in Compton, California. It's exposing what's happening in San Francisco and San Diego, California. Much like I have already spoken to. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct with regard to a specific environment, which is revealing what's happening throughout the state, what's happening throughout the country. Because again, the entity that's maintaining a fake sun from sunrise until sunset is automatically exposing itself, because what is in Florida? These are the questions that you're posing when you look up in the sky and you look at the specific environment that surrounds you. Okay, this is an entity that's engaging in surveillance, and it is the United States government's pattern of conduct that is fully underway in Ontario. These baboons are surrounded with evidence, and their mental illness is no longer closeted. In other words, when the demon possessed have been discerned, which Satan despises, their demon possession is more prevalent, which is how you're going to prosecute that, because you can't prosecute for being a demon, but you can prosecute for engaging in psychopathic criminal activity, which is also implicating mental illness, whereby they will also be diagnosed. You can do that. Okay, you do it with tangible evidence, which is what the P.O.C. provides, and it's informing you, the public, who need to know what Satan is doing. Because these are the times that we're in, and it's going to become more and more deceptive and more violent, because Satan is becoming more and more desperate. You are seeing it through the stalking of an airport that has literally gone, with abandon. They don't even care about the fact that you are being proven targeting an American citizen, the damages that are going to be related to that, the ongoing court cases that are going to precipitate from that, the liability, those that are going to be losing positions, those are going to be held accountable civilly and criminally for that. They're not thinking about that, while they're, again, demons that have lost self-control because they have been discerned. And not only as I discern them, I am prosecuting them with evidence. And that is, if you want to call something magical, I'm not even going to do that. That is the power of the Holy Spirit. These demons that are triggered by the truth that I'm speaking regarding the wicked that they are and the wicked conduct that they're engaging in. And it's criminal. It's criminal. Yes, it is sin, but it's criminal. I'm prosecuting Satan. Okay, it's P.O.C. And that's how you have them, and that's why you have them engaging when it's acting like barbarians. Okay, and it's serving my purposes. It's all working for me, and my prosecution is done. It's currently 9:23 a.m. This is the pattern of conduct. The entity is stalking, flying over my head, targeting me at this bus stop, where it's also showing you where the fake sun is present. This is also where an airport is targeting as well, and this is also all the evidence you heard, including at 12 o'clock this morning, who was stalking the Ontario Police Department. All right, that's the P.O.C. It's again, it's Tuesday, January 6, 2026. It's 9:23 a.m. You will see the image of the fake sun remaining over me. You're mindful of the entity having the fake sun. At what point is it at 9:35 going to travel to be, or can it be? No, the answer is no. It cannot simultaneously be over the roof of the Ontario Airport Inn while I am facing that roof, which encompasses the room that I'm in, room 245, facing the direction east at 9:35 a.m. while it's reflecting off of these demons' vehicles who are pacing all around me, stalking. They're cockroaches. Okay? They're engaging in what is stalking as a population. That population is caught. That population is also identified. They're demons. Demons are serial killers. Demons are racist. Demons are the ones that are responsible for the crime rate. The ratio that the demon-possessed gang stalking law enforcement agencies who are engaged in criminal surveillance, they create these ratios. They are the ones that are responsible for those ratios. They're keeping themselves employed. The demon-possessed that are engaged in criminal surveillance are the ones that are putting money in their own pocket by maintaining this ongoing corrupt system. And guess what? They've all been fired. They've all been fired. And the demons are nothing engaging while they're serving my prosecutorial purposes. All you're doing is you're looking at Satan creating a hissy fit, crying about it. All right? And Satan is upset, in other words, and Satan is going to be, because there's some tremendous consequences. Because Satan is not the one that you want to engage in criminal activity with this, because it's going to cost you a lot of money. So pay attention. You engage in criminal activity, you go into a contract, you go into an agreement to target with an entity like this that lacks self-control, that lacks strategy, that lacks restraint, that lacks any sort of plan B when plan A doesn't work. Then what do? You execute psychopathy to get everybody in trouble, because that's what these demons are doing. I'm going to prosecute with tangible evidence. I'm going to submit it in court. And like I stated, it's going to be cinematic. All right? It's going to be in HD. All right? It will be televised. This is Here's a fake sun. It's 9:32 a.m. You're going to compare what they're doing at around the same time at the Ontario Town Square. Not only is the flight, first of all, this has nothing to do, this is irreconcilable in the courtroom. You're going to prosecute the airport for stalking, which is established by deviating from where takeoffs are occurring from the terminals, and also stalking established under the fake sun. The entity is keeping the fake sun at around the same time at the Ontario Town Square, which is south. All right. And also in that video, the entity is flying in a direction, downtown Ontario luxury apartments. I'm on the opposite side of that apartment building. I'm facing the same direction. So while what I'm looking at now, there's no way I would be able to capture it on video, meaning this is not the same as what they're doing at the same time at the Ontario Town Square on video. And the entity is engaging in the P.O.C. Omnitrans is gang stalking. All right. And they're doing so with the people of the state that are stalking at the bus stop, while the people of the state are molesting with engineer light. And they are indeed molesting with engineer light. This is impossible light. Everybody on the bus is gang stalking, and everybody on the bus is doing so when you know I'm aboard Omnitrans and the fake sun moves. Not the case while Omnitrans is stalking right now. 1545862. That's activity creation, and that's a bus line that's going to be prosecuted. They're doing so while the fake sun is based on where I'm located. That's why it moves as I move street for street, turn for turn, regarding whatever route I get on regarding Omnitrans. That's a scientific impossibility. This is how I'm simultaneously prosecuting the government that is stalking as an airport under the fake sun. Same time, at around the same time, I'm at the Ontario Town Square, which I just documented the other day. I'll attach that video. And the entity has the fake sun over me facing the clock. All right, so my back would be to this direction where I'm looking at now, where I'm north of the town square. This will be behind me while I'm at the Ontario Town Square at the same time, where that airport is stalking, flying over the town square, and doing so while that fake sun is in mutually exclusive locations with regard to my documentation showing you that. It's also not the sun because it's remaining over the roof of the Ontario Airport and that hotel where that entity is engaged in that P.O.C. This is where this entity is all manner of surveillance, just like they were at 12 o'clock in the morning, just like they were at 11 o'clock at night, engaged in ongoing psychopathic, while I am uploading the evidence of them stalking me by helicopter as a department, a demon-possessed entity that will be prosecuted by business, by department, by state. And these are the millions who are the co-conspirators of murder, the organized crime of federal group stalking and monitoring, the reality of criminal surveillance, the removal of the illusion that you have privacy, that the government is engaged in what is respecting that privacy. Not only is it not respecting your privacy and has betrayed American citizens, the government is doing it with the people of the state who are not individuals. They're not individuals under the law with regard to federal group stalking and monitoring. They're not engaged in private speech. They're not engaged in anything that is with regard to what is lawful. All right, they're demons engaged in that P.O.C. and they're doing so in an environment that is irreconcilable with nature. Not only is that not the sun and they're all driving in that engineer light monitoring, they're doing so with regard to what you're able to recognize the specific environment. It's not sun. None of this is sunlight. And this is all conducive to what is criminal monitoring. Okay, this is P.O.C.
It's currently 9:35 a.m.
JHN817 9ULY 902 28609H3 35068N3 7RVC094 N083H0 6WGB319. All manner of surveillance where the entity is stalking as an airport, and they're in the facilitated venues studying their devices like minions, like vagina monitoring psychopaths, demon-possessed individuals who are exposed, engaging in criminal surveillance and conspiring murder openly as a society. License 8BGH000, stalking like a psychopath. 9 TOW 691, doing so with the government that tells on everybody as the pattern of conduct by the people of the state. Demons, obvious ones as well, tell on the government. 7 VHV 139, 9 GRE 658, 8 ZHH 571, 9 AEJ 707. They are gang stalking inside of the RAYBON Premier Mortgage, maintaining that environment, including the environment that is maintained by the government that stalks in the sky space with planes and helicopters. It's relevant to not only physically stalking, it's criminal monitoring, aerial surveillance, audible activity, presence in the path, fake sun under me, engineer light all over. They're monitoring their demons. Okay, license 8YHH345, 9GRE658, and AGES, this drug treatment center where a bunch of gang stalkers are distributing opioids to drug addicts that are gang stalking me. They're engaging what is studying their devices in gang stalking. I'll read you one of these criminals' license plates as well. 8ZHH571 is gang stalking, and they're doing so with, again, these are license plates over here. These opioid distributors, they're gang stalkers. They're co-conspirators of murder, and they're distributing drugs to drug addicts. Okay? License 6YGK380. License 8 Nancy Mary David 242. And I've already documented AGES gang stalking me. The entity stalking me in the parking lot. The Ontario police stalking in the path. This is evidence that's on the record already. The Ontario police stalking in a dark parking lot. Engineer light moving all across the walls in the dark. Multiple shadows surrounding me. Inexplicable light that's not reconciled by the artificial light, the street lamps, my shadow appearing in the shade, my shadow on the ground, my shadow upright projected on the walls, the Ontario International Airport stalking, flying over the AGES Treatment Center, engineer light flashing on the wall of the AGES Treatment Center. These are demons. Okay? These are demons that are engaging in the P.O.C., and these are demons that are engaging in that while they are conspicuously stalking, and that's also why I conspicuously document. That's the pattern of conduct. Alrighty, it is currently 9:44 a.m., 9ULY 902, stalking as an entity that's doing so in concert with the demons that are stalking, obviously, as an airport under a fake sun that is not at the Ontario Town Square. All right? It's not at the Ontario Town Square. In other words, the sun is not an omnipresent object in the sky. The only thing that is omnipresent, meaning perpetually present no matter where you go at all times, is the sky. The sun is an object that's in constant movement. Because it's in constant movement, it is not omnipresent. It's not everywhere. That's why it's moving from place to place. And that is also shown through what is science and even scripture, regardless of whether you believe in the Bible or not, but it is spoken to how God created the world and the sun, which is a luminary that has an actual purpose. And this is Satan's demonic and unintelligent imitation. It's unintelligent what Satan created. License 8ZEN759. And they're all stalking in it. These are demons. These are Satan's minions. And Satan's minions are all together stupid. You can have one stupid person, and then you can have one stupid person recruit 2 million stupid, equally stupid people. That will not create what is a formidable adversary. They are all stupid together, and they're all going down together. Okay, this is P.O.C. I just want to get, those are the gang members surrounding me while the entity is stalking me by airport. The entity is stalking, understand, where the entity is gang stalking, they're doing so because I'm surrounded by people that are stalking with them. They're not creating light activity because nobody else is around helping. You gang stalk as an entity together. It's in the phrase itself. The gang is surrounding you. While one gang member is engaging in any element, it's letting you know that there are gang members surrounding. 439W87, that's Nevada. Crossing state lines to engage in criminal surveillance is a federal offense under existing law, the language of that law. Crossing state lines with the intent to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring is already exposed. Nevada is gang stalking, and so is California. You are crossing lines with the intent to engage in criminal surveillance in furtherance of murder by virtue of being present in the state, and I'm going to prosecute based on the entity pattern of conduct. Just want to be clear on that. While they're stalking me on the roads and the highways. License 17338 Thomas Z, 9TZA 498, 9TBV 333. P.O.C. It's 9:47 a.m. All right, license 8 Edward Indiana Paul 592. License 7 Edward Nancy Jerry 370. License 20396 Xavier 2. 8 Larry 35190, 9 Sam Charlie David 356, and ARCO at 434 North Euclid Avenue. Gang stalking with the Ontario International Airport that's maintaining plane activity, which you already know. Doing so under a fake sun, which you also already know. Doing so with the people of the state who pace around me like the airport is doing, using every airline that is sharing in federal stalking and conspiracy to murder. 9 SSF 142, 8 PUC 910. The same with Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue, Chevron's employees, and the facilitating unit. That's just where I'm at. Starbucks is on the opposite side of this intersection. The UNICARE Community Health Center on the opposite side of this intersection. They're sharing in the pattern of conduct. I'm identifying relevant positioning, the zone where I'm at right now. The entities engaging in this with regard to the Country Cuts Barber, Farmers, the Lemon Avenue House, San Bernardino County Housing Authority, Light, the Ontario Veterinary Hospital, the entities engaging in the pattern of conduct where they live along Lemon and F Street. This is all the zone of relevant positioning, and I've documented this neighborhood. I've documented the entity gang stalking. The fake sun is present over me. This is the P.O.C. and they're monitoring with the airport. That's a means of what is aerial surveillance while they're engaging in surveillance on the roads and highways surrounding all around. They're engaging in surveillance inside of the veterinary hospital. They're not engaging in anything lawful. They're engaging in surveillance in the veterinary hospital under the guise of maintaining that means of criminal presence and activity creation, going to and from that veterinary hospital, which is under the fake sun, where the government is stalking in planes and helicopters, where a population is stalking with engineer light, and you're calling it a veterinary hospital. They're engaged in federal stalking. Okay, you can maintain an ice cream parlor, and the same criminal elements of monitoring is underway. You're going to prosecute under federal RICO. Okay, that's the entity that's engaging in that. It's public corruption. Just to give you an example, this time I'm going to prosecute the state of California. It's currently 10:10 a.m. P.O.C.
Alrighty, this is stalking. Stalking with the government that's doing cartwheels as I walk out of the building. 9WHR396, and this is being targeted while I'm inside of the so-called church. It's not a real church. You know them by their... You also know, based on their lack of belief in scripture, based on this ongoing Bible study, which is a guise of the criminal elements of monitoring, where demons are sitting around in a table at a facilitating venue under the fake sun, discussing scripture that they don't actually believe in. This is the P.O.C., the entity amplifying plane activity inside of that fake church. This is Bethel Congregation at 536 North Euclid Avenue. The fake sun is remaining over me as I'm walking out, and the entity is maintaining amplified plane activity. It's 11:23 a.m. and there's no sun over the OVITT Family Community Library. This is psychopathic pacing, and it's focused on where I'm at. Okay, that's the entity clearly stalking. This is the entity that knows that it's being prosecuted and knows that it's caught, so they're just engaging in plain view. 42194 Apple 4. That's UPS. You're looking at the plane activity coming from the same airport, different elevations, engaging in all manner of criminal conduct. This is air traffic regarding surveillance, and the fake sun is right here over me. This is where the fake sun is at, by the way, in the evening. This is where the fake sun is at sunrise, where the entity's maintaining this fake at. So this big picture. It's 11 right now. This is the fake sun. On the opposite side of this wall is Euclid Avenue. The bus stop's on the opposite side, where the fake sun is rising right over this building. And they're walking in the engineer light behind that bus bench. They're flying, not engaging in cartwheels right here, but they're engaging in cartwheels on Euclid Avenue in alignment to me, like they are now, stalking in alignment to me, where the fake sun is in alignment to me. And they're engaging in what is that ongoing patrolling. P.S. is a terrorist that committed murder in Kentucky. They're engaged in criminal surveillance in Kentucky, and they're engaging in criminal surveillance in California. All right, this is the P.O.C., the entity that's driving in the parking lot. They're engaged in demonic behavior. Okay, and this is speaking to knowledge. They're not strangers. They're engaging in surveillance. The fake sun is not over the OVITT Family Community Library. It's reflecting right here off of this vehicle next to me. 8ZGN 953 is also a third party that's engaging in surveillance, state surveillance, and furtherance of murder. Okay, and my life is under threat inside of a fake church.
P.O.C. The fake sun is also here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, like I documented on November 25th, 2025. The fake sun is also here while I'm documenting Southwest Airlines flying over the top of my head while I'm on the sidewalk after 6 p.m. and the fake sun is over me at this same street on Euclid Avenue. And the entity is targeting by that airport that is stalking in commercial planes, and they're doing so while they've invested in the conspiracy to commit murder. This is P.O.C. It is currently 11:25 a.m.
All right, it is currently 11:28 a.m. and the video that you're listening to is the entity that is stalking inside of, again, bathrooms aboard public transportation, using airports, and also at fake churches. 7TLJ859, EJ97D05 paper, 8KBC562, stalking using school buses. License 1679790, that's Ontario Montclair School District. That's a old Latina female. She's stalking. And she does that while she has children aboard as well, with whom they engage in federal stalking using communication devices, demonic activity. A bus full of demons that are under the age of majority as well. All right, this is the entity that's engaging in that, and that's what I was surrounded by as a child, by the way. Children that were demons and the bus driver that were demons, and I've been targeted since I was a child, and this is me exposing that system that I still remain subject to as an adult. That's a threat to your life, and it's no mystery, by the way, that school officials, teachers, and including minors are engaging in sexual violence. The demon-possessed that are gang stalking are of this same Jezebel spirit, and they engage in what is sexual perversion. It includes sex with minors. It includes sexual improprieties, which the demons that are in positions where they have access to minor children are engaging in that. There is no mystery regarding sexual violence that children are subject to amongst the demon-possessed that drive the school buses and are working at the schools and are in positions of authority. Those are demons that are strategically placed, by the way. License plate 9A0H803, gang stalking with Sarah's Regis Group. The fake sun is progressing south as I walk south toward the OVITT Family Community Library, and that's what you'll see in the images, what you already know, that it's not the sun when I'm here at 10 o'clock, like I documented yesterday. All right, that's the pattern of conduct where the entity is stalking as an airport, stalking as a people, and the entity is doing so flagrantly because these are demons that are engaging in criminal activity for which they don't intend to have any explanation. They don't intend to. They never intended to. And it's not funny because this is relevant to the way they live their lives. They are ready to die. They're suicidal people. And that's why they engage in this as a society with children. This is the way that the demon-possessed are actually existing. And they've been trying to hide amongst us like they're normal people. They're not. They're demon-possessed people. 9SEJ254. 6FHW334, 9TFS907, 7RKH653, City of Ontario, license 1497512. Engaging in surveillance in the parking lot where you can see the video of the Ontario, the Ontario police are stalking me where the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking with planes. But 7LC of 047, the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking using commercial planes while I'm walking outside of the venue of the Bethel Congregation Church, where demons were maintaining what is a Bible study. Okay, that's nothing other than sitting around creating audible activity, monitoring my vagina, doing so while the entity is in sync with the demons that are using commercial planes over that church, where no terminal takeoffs, none of the published flights are speaking to what is anything irrelevant or lawful regarding the operations of that airport that is targeting me with Bethel Congregation. 7RKH653, in furtherance of murder, not engaging in any Bible study, and no Christ follower is engaging in gang stalking. 6SGW544. You know them and you know them by their deeds. All right, and you also know that what they're going to be subject to, it's a prosecution for criminal activity. And on top of that, bonus is that they're exposed as demons. The fake sun is now over the OVITT Family Community Library as I arrive. And this is giving you context. What are they doing inside of the building? They're demons that are pacing. They're mentally ill. And there's nothing funny about that. What it is it's embarrassing to the demon-possessed. And they don't want you to know that their children are demons as well. Their children are demon-possessed. What they give birth to, demon-possessed give birth to the dead. Okay? Their demons are
coming out of the canal in that condition. And they're engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct with minor children. And they engage in that conduct while they are witnessing the evidence of their exposure. This is relevant nonetheless because the federal government is absolutely in a position and is mandated to protect minors with regard to criminal activity. We're not here to save anybody's soul. That's not the government's legitimate interest, but you will prosecute for the government that's engaging in criminal activity and contributing to their delinquency, including them in sexual violence, including them in terrorism, just like in Afghanistan, okay? Where the Ontario National Airport, the city of Ontario, is no different, and that's why it's being gutted out. License plate, crossing path while the entity's sounding plane activity. This vagina monitor, homosexual female, 9MNZ161, a raving lunatic, stalking on the roads and the highways. Under the fake sun, which is over me now at the OVITT Family Community Library, and just moments ago, it's over me at Bethel Congregation, the same Bethel Congregation that it is over during the 6 and 7 a.m. hour, where these demons are engaging what is psychopathic pacing, like I showed you, where a stalker wants to be right next to me, listening to me breathing while I'm sleeping, wants to be next to my vessel while I inhale and exhale, and while I'm unconscious, to be right next to me and next to my vagina that it's obsessed with, that's inside of my clothing and under my sleeping bag, while they're stalking and pacing all around and molesting with engineer light. Where the fake moon is over me at that bus stop and where the fake sun rises at that bus stop. That's where it was at on video. And then it follows to this OVITT Family Community Library where everybody inside is a demon. It's not a scary story. This is real life, and it's a prosecution for criminal activity. Satan's being prosecuted in court. Satan's going by the name of City of Ontario. It's losing everything. No fire department, no police department, no airport. P.O.C. It's 11:34 a.m.
One shadow, darker shadow on this side, and I can show you. This is upon my exit of the OVITT Family Community Library where I am being targeted inside, monitoring my vagina, monitoring me inside, just like my social media shows as I'm capturing images of the domestic terrorists who maintain the criminal elements of monitoring, keeping me under surveillance with the government that is stalking, tracking my steps as a demon walks in front of me, gang stalking me, and doing so also in the private space where sex offenders are engaging in criminal surveillance at an OVITT Family Community Library. This is the City of Ontario. All right, this is the environment where that criminal surveillance is underway. This is P.O.C. And this is the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct and then is stalking me as I walk north up Euclid Avenue and then hovering over the storefront, flying, stalking on the opposite side. This is the downtown Ontario luxury apartments. They're doing so with regard to what is stalking when I'm walking north up Euclid Avenue. The entity is doing so while they're stalking with light, certifiable conduct. That's what Securitas is doing now. And this engineer light, that's surveillance. Securitas is a gang stalker. Securitas is conspiring my murder, and I'm going to prosecute Securitas. That's the same one that engaged in criminal summoning with the gang members of the Ontario Police, like Sergeant Hall, who's engaging in that criminal pattern of conduct and did so on video, and she's going to prison, and it's a clear-cut prosecution. Okay, P.O.C. I want to be clear, it's currently 8:51 p.m. where that ongoing targeting upon my exit is the evidence that's going to be used against the entity that committed kidnapping with the gang members of the Ontario Police Department. This is P.O.C. This is surveillance that I'm subject to from place to place. This is a stalker. They're maintaining psychopathic pacing everywhere that I'm going, including in the sky space. To document this is relevant to what is psychopathic pacing concentrated over the senior citizen complex based on my location. In the engineered environment upon my exit and upon my documentation. So this is the entity that is monitoring not only because they are suicidal and have no intention of defending anything in a courtroom where they will be adjudicated regarding being guilty for terrorism, which is proven, no conspiracy theory, but they're also, and they represent the City of Ontario. Paul Leon is being removed from office because of his engagement in federal group stalking and monitoring while the airport is stalking, flying over the law school, over the city hall, over the senior center, and the senior apartment complex adjacent to the OVITT Family Community Library, where Abigail, who is engaged in criminal summoning, she's engaged in a serial stalking for term of years in furtherance of my murder. She's engaged in gang stalking with the airport, terrorizing me and monitoring my vagina, and engaging in criminal summoning with the Ontario Police Department, doing so with impunity. She's engaged in federal stalking with the patrons who go inside in concert with Lindsay. Lindsay's inside gang stalking. Mickey's inside gang stalking. The entity is maintaining the pattern of conduct with the employees who are inside of this venue, including the Securitas, the African-American female. She changes her hair like hats every other day. She is inside gang stalking with the entity. As I walk out, they're sharing the pattern of conduct and targeting me with the city of Ontario. And the entity is also doing it with the intent to harass and terrorize and target, like they do, stalking me with light as psychopaths pacing inside of the library and engineer light and maintaining flickering light. These are mentally ill demons who are monitoring inside of the library, and it includes Abigail and Lindsay and Natasha, those that are engaging in the pattern of conduct. And they committed kidnapping here, which the entity that's stalking as an airport is further confirming. It is a straightforward prosecution for the entity that has no intention to defend itself in a courtroom, where they're engaging in what is ongoing stalking that serves no actual purpose other than satiating a psychopath that is out at its wit's end with regard to stalking somebody that's embarrassing them on the internet. Okay, this is the entity that has conspired murder. These are serial killers that are engaging in blatant criminal activity before the world and before the feds. The entity is maintaining aerial surveillance, and remember, the entity is engaging in what is criminal surveillance while this pattern of conduct is underway. Okay, so this is relevant to what the gang members of the Ontario Police Department are subject to. They're going to prison. Okay, there will be no airport, no fire department, and there will be no ambulances that are engaging in criminal surveillance, which is what the city of Ontario is doing. They're pacing out of the entrance doors, monitoring. That's a security guard. That's Abigail, that are gang stalking with the city of Ontario. That's maintaining plane activity where there are no airport terminals that are maintaining planes hovering over the venue. They're monitoring my vagina as well. They're walking in engineer light. This is P.O.C. All right, this is the same criminal conduct where they're committing kidnapping at this venue, which is documented as a history. And this is psychopathic while they're engaging in the P.O.C. as though nothing is underway. You're going to diagnose with this. This is the demon that changes their weave like hats. This is who I'm referring to. They're engaged in the pattern of conduct with regard to gang stalking me and targeting me with the city of Ontario. They will be prosecuted. That's pacing while she's checking the door again. That's a psychopath. P.O.C. It's currently 9:02 p.m. All right, just to be clear, there is no question that Securitas, that Abigail, that Lindsay, the demons that are gang stalking, driving out the property of Chevron while they're targeting me with impossible light, are doing so in furtherance of murder and are indeed stalkers. Okay, that includes every airline. These are demons that are engaging in psychopathic pacing, one after another, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and they like to engage in sexual assault and battery while the entities engage in this P.O.C. My shadow, I'm standing under light, so the fact that my shadow was in front of me at a distance is impossible light activity. These are demons that are stalking in the path, maintaining aerial surveillance, and then doing so while I walk outside of the OVITT Family Community Library among stalkers. And that is the entity that's conspiring murder, okay? They're doing so as one. I want to document the people of the state conspiring my murder as an entity, stalking in commercial planes, expensive investment in my murder, doing so while they are looking at the evidence on the internet, which further inspires harassment, like what the OVITT Family Community Library employees like Abigail, the gang stalking security guard of Securitas that are engaging in what is targeting me while I upload the evidence. This is the PDF that is containing a lot of the names of the co-conspirators of murder of the OVITT Family Community Library. This is the entity. OVITT Family Community Library is nothing other than a venue. This is the same entity. A gang, okay, that makes up a whole entity that are stalking, and that's why the airport is deviating even farther north up Euclid Avenue. That's the downtown Ontario luxury apartments over there behind the ARCO, where they are stalking and hovering, same elevation, same audible activity, doing so while they're stalking as a population. Okay, that is not creating any headlights on that wall over there. You see the headlights? It's not going to blind. And when you're driving behind people, they're not blinding each other. And also their headlights are not shooting to create any of my shadows on the wall, contrary to what I'm documenting. These are not just stalkers, they're demons. And they've conspired and invested in, and it is public information, and the feds are fully aware of the fact that this entity has conspired my murder, including a whole airport. Every airline has invested money and is criminally engaged in federal stalking, which is committed in furtherance of that conspiracy to murder. And that airport is engaging in what is criminal activity as an entity. That's incriminating the fire department, the police department, the demons that are driving in EMTs as EMTs in ambulances gang stalking. And they're doing so while that entity is keeping the evidence under surveillance. You are from the airport at terminals 2 and 4, necessarily flying northwest miles away to then hover back down like a psychopath that stalks with impossible light to engage in what is stalking me in a commercial plane. And you're looking at me put video after video after video on the internet about it. They're going to federal prison and they're going into mental asylums just like the demons that eat feces that are stalking me with impossible light. This is the entity that's doing so. They will be deported out of this country. They will be prosecuted as a matter of federal law as the domestic terrorists that they are. These are enemies of the United States. This isn't traffic. This is stalking on a 24-hour basis. What sane entity would engage in investing that much time over people that you don't even know? This is an organized system by the government. This is domestic terrorism. These are the demon-possessed. Okay? This is P.O.C. It's currently 9:49 p.m. where the Ontario International Airport is speaking to the city of Ontario that's speaking to the state of California engaging in that pattern of conduct. P.O.C.